Hi guys, I hope you're all well and welcome to episode 141 of the Layton Fitness Podcast. Now within this specific podcast episode, I'll be discussing how to use cardio for fat loss. So firstly, I just want to discuss some of my personal experiences, how I used to train for fat loss in the past, which was completely wrong, and then how I learned how to do this correctly, and also discuss how some of my clients used to train prior to working with myself. And essentially what I used to do was, when I started a fat loss phase, I thought the key to losing body fat was lots of cardio, doing lots of light weight or high repetitions with weight, and then focusing on slashing the calories completely. Within a very short period of time, within 1 to 2 weeks, I'd lost a huge amount of muscle mass. I'd lost weight as well, but I was losing strength daily. I was feeling tired, hungry, lethargic, and then I'd almost go back into a bulking phase because I felt like I was losing too much muscle, and therefore I'd just cycle between the two, never really making any consistent progress because I was too aggressive, far too aggressive in terms of how much cardio I was doing. I remember doing runs, actually, when I first started training, I remember doing runs to and from the gym. I probably live about 4 or 5 miles from the gym. I used to run to the gym, do my weight training, and then run home, which is absolutely crazy, and I'll discuss why shortly. So it's just important to realize that I got this wrong when I first started training. So if you're doing this now, do not panic. All you need to do is just change your approach. It's normal for you to think these things. These are quite common theories within the fitness industry in terms of doing lots of cardio, slashing the calories, and then light weights, doing high repetitions with light weights. Additionally, as I mentioned last week within the last week's podcast, I was talking about training considerations for females. This is something that a lot of females do. They focus too much on cardio. They focus on doing long duration cardio sessions. They do circuit type weight training or light weights, high repetitions with the weight training, but not a huge amount of weight training. Again, they're consuming low calories, usually sufficient protein. Now, as my knowledge started to improve, I started to actually perform fat loss phases correctly. It took me multiple goes, having said that, because even though each time I went to a fat loss phase I had a little bit more knowledge, it still took me multiple times. The reason why is you're constantly battling two different ideas in your head. One, you're trying to maintain as much muscle mass as possible, and two, you want to lose body fat, and therefore I was constantly either being too aggressive with regards to the energy deficit and therefore losing too much fat too quickly, losing a lot of muscle mass, or not really making any progress at all. So let's really discuss what our two main objectives are in the fat loss phase. Firstly, we obviously want to lose body fat, but we also want to maintain as much muscle mass as possible, and therefore that means we need to have weight training as the foundation of our routine. That needs to be the foundation of our routine to maintain muscle mass, and then we're merely adding in cardio and also decreasing calories when we reach fat loss plateaus, and also to create the deficit. So weight training's role is to preserve muscle mass, and we're creating that energy deficit from increasing cardio and also reducing calories. But weight training needs to come first. So that's the first big shift. Secondly, you need to view cardio merely as just a tool to burn calories. Unless you're an athlete or someone trying to improve sporting performance, if you have goals of just purely fat loss and maintaining as much muscle mass as possible, which is the goal for most males and females. Females just think they want to lose body fat, but you also do want to maintain muscle mass to actually give you the figure you desire, to have well-defined glutes, legs, shoulders and arms, etc. So that's the first key shift. You just need to view cardio as merely a tool to burn calories. The next thing we need to discuss is cardio type. We have 3 different types. We have high intensity interval training, which are things like sprinting or circuit training, which can be a very good tool to burn a lot of calories in a short space of time, but it can be quite draining on the body. It mirrors weight training, and therefore if you do too much of it, it can impede our strength and our weight training, therefore we can lose more muscle mass in the fat loss phase. The next type is MIS, or moderate intensity steady state cardio, which is, for example, running or cycling, or jogging or cycling. Typically your heart rate's around 70-80% of your maximum heart rate, and it's usually a continuous event. You're not doing exercise for a short period of time then stopping then repeating. You're doing it for a prolonged period of time. This can be a useful tool to burn calories, but if you do too much of this, you start to get endurance adaptations which are counterproductive to our weight training and our goals of maintaining muscle mass. You don't want to do too much MIS. And then the final one is low intensity steady state cardio. A good example could be an incline walk on the treadmill, typically 60% of your maximal heart rate or lower. And this can be a useful tool of just burning calories because it's not particularly draining on the body like HIIT is, for example. You're not getting those endurance adaptations like you are of the MIS. It's just a tool to burn calories. You can easily recover from these sessions. So in short, you don't want to be doing too much of one or the other. You don't want to be doing too much HIIT. You don't want to be doing too much MIS. Focus more on a combination. So we've got that weight training as our foundation first, and then we're using a mixture of HIIT, LIS, and MIS as our cardio to help to create the energy deficit needed for fat loss. Now, in regards to the actual timing, make sure you're not doing this immediately before the weight training. If you start doing it immediately before the weight training, you're just going to lose a lot of strength and muscle mass within the fat loss phase because you'll be fatigued going into your weight training. Remember that weight training is our main focus. We're trying to preserve that as best we can. So make sure these cardio sessions are going at the end of the weight training session, on a day off, or several hours prior to the training bout. So again, we're using a combination of all those different cardio types, and it really depends on the individual how many sessions you'll start with at the start of the fat loss phase. It could be 0 sessions, it could be cardio both days. It depends on the individual. It depends also on the deadline you're trying to achieve your fat loss goals. For example, if you have 8 weeks prior to a holiday and you've got a lot of body fat to lose, we'll more than likely start with more cardio, as opposed to someone who has, let's say, 6 months to lose body fat for a particular event. We may start with 0 cardio sessions, or maybe just a handful of cardio sessions, or just 1 cardio session. It really depends. But the key principle I want you to remember is once we have that weight training in place and you've got your initial amount of cardio sessions in place, whether it's 1 cardio session or 4 cardio sessions within your week, then it's a case of measuring your progress. And then as soon as you reach a fat loss plateau, i.e. you don't reach a 0.5 to 1% weight loss target each week, that's your cue to add in another cardio session or drop calories by approximately 10-15%. So you really need to see this fat loss phase like a flow chart. You're putting something in place, you're measuring your progress. At the end of the week, did you make progress? Yes or no? If it's yes, i.e. you met that 0.5 to 1% weight loss target, keep doing the same thing. If it's a no, that's your cue to add an additional cardio session or increase the duration of your current cardio sessions or drop calories. Finally, keep this in mind, the minimum effective dose. We're really trying to use the minimum amount of cardio sessions and the most amount of calories possible within the fat loss phase, because that allows us to maintain more muscle mass and strength in the fat loss phase. So that's why you're only adding in additional cardio or reducing calories when you actually reach a plateau, because again, we're trying to use the minimum effective dose to maintain as much muscle mass within the fat loss phase. So hopefully that's been useful. Again, it's difficult to give exact recommendations on how many cardio sessions to start with, but in a lot of situations, it's usually maybe 3 sessions per week in addition to the weight training session. So it could be, say for example, 3 HIIT sessions at the end of your weight training. You could be doing 10 minutes of these, 30 seconds sprint, 30 seconds at a slow speed, repeat until the 10 minutes are up, and then you can just add in additional maybe LIS or MIS sessions or another HIIT session when you reach a fat loss plateau, or decrease calories. So hopefully that's been useful. Thank you very much for listening. I will look forward to speaking to you next week. If you're still yet to download my free ebook, How to Set Up a Nutrition Plan, if you go to James Layton, Layton, fitness.co.uk, you'll see a tab at the top of the page called free ebook, and you can download that immediately. If you're still yet to subscribe to the podcast, please do, so you don't miss an episode, as these episodes will be coming out every single week. Additionally, we're very close to that 100,000 download mark, which we're trying to achieve before the end of 2017. I'm very confident we will achieve that. So thank you very much if you've been one of those individuals who's been listening every single week, or you've listened to some of the podcasts in the past. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.